Good afternoon and welcome to the Hibs Observer Thursday afternoon briefing with myself, Liam Bryce, joined by a special guest today, joining us on the show for the first time. It's journalist and Hibs fan Callum Watt, as well as kind of various other roles. Callum helps run the Hibs Observer TikTok account, so no doubt you've seen him on there. I can't speak for Patrick, but for me, he's doing us a real service there because, I mean, I don't feel like I'm that old, Callum, but I do feel like I am too old for TikTok, unfortunately. So, yeah, early 30s problems there. I'm sure a few of you watching can relate to that. But yeah, Callum, thank you very much for joining us. How are you? How are you this afternoon?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having me on. I know it's been obviously could have been on last week, but I was happy to stand down for Alan Stubbs to get that interview out. So yeah, good to be on this week.
I mean, we got there in the end with Alan, but I did spend the better part of last week chasing him. But I think if there's anybody in the sort of Hibs universe that you can make allowances for, it is probably Alan Stubbs. So yeah, we'll maybe touch a wee bit on that today, but it's been a kind of really busy week for us, which means it's been a busy week at Hibs. We'll get into all of that. We've got our exclusive interview with Malky Mackay to discuss. We've got the departure of Brian McDermott to touch on. Obviously, the transfer window opens as well. I'll be speaking to Callum about what he wants to see from, obviously an incoming point of view at Hibs this summer, and then we'll also touch on maybe a few who could be moving on before the end of the summer. Just bear with us, folks, as always, before we get started. Just a quick word for our sponsors, MPH Group. They're opening a brand new kitchen showroom in Dunfermline, Fife, with a VIP Vegas-themed launch weekend from June the 14th to the 16th. 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that's all over this weekend. There'll be roulette games with instant win prizes such as 10% off services, free boiler services, and a chance to enter a draw for even bigger prizes. If you land on zero, you'll get entered into a grand draw for a 4-night stay at Trump Tower in Vegas, complete with a helicopter tour into the bargain as well. So don't miss out. RSVP now at www.launch.mph.group to secure your spot. So let's get on with it, mate. So as I said, it's been a really busy week for us with the interview with Alan Stubbs at the beginning of the week there, and then we had the chance to sit down and speak to new sporting director Malky Mackay. It's his sort of first external interview since taking the job last month, and his first time speaking really since the appointment of David Gray. So it's a two-part interview. The first part was out today. Second part will follow tomorrow, and I'll touch on that in a wee while. But the first bit was really kind of wanted to get a sense from him about the process that led the club to hiring David Gray, because obviously it ran on for a few weeks. There was it became a bit of an open secret that Gray was a candidate. We kind of knew that he wanted the job, but the rest of it was all kind of kept very much under wraps. So I think as much as obviously there was a real, there was a kind of wave of goodwill towards David Gray, a club legend, kind of serving his apprenticeship under 4 different managers, then now finally stepping into the main role himself as head coach. But, it's such an important appointment for him. It's kind of one that absolutely has to work after really what's transpired over the last few years. So obviously there's going to be questions. And I don't think it's not maybe exclusive to Hibs. This, I think, always when football clubs go through a hiring process and they end up kind of promoting somebody from within, there's always questions around that. How did you get to that decision? Was he the best candidate? So Callum, you've had a chance to read what Malky Mackay had to say. So I mean, first of all, before we even get to that, what were your feelings on David Gray getting the job in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you said, it was pretty well known and well trailed that he was quite likely going to end up getting the job. So at the start, I was kind of, when he was first sort of mentioned as looking like it might happen, and initially I was like, kind of, see if he comes in and doesn't hit the ground running, could tarnish his legacy and all that kind of thing. But I think his legacy's so ingrained and just above everything that if it goes poorly, I think hopefully it won't. But if it does, I think his legacy's is safe just because of what it was that he actually did. But no, yeah, when it was announced, I could kind of come round to the fact that it's probably a good appointment. That's, as you said, I feel like we're saying this every time someone comes in, but they need to get this appointment right. We've got David Gray in, who's been at the club for 10 years. He knows the club inside out, as obviously Malky Mackay touched on in the interview. So yeah, I think that's something that we need. So that's stability. He knows what a good Hibs team looks like, not even just in terms of on the pitch, but he knows what a good Hibs club looks like, sort of structurally as well. So yeah, I'm kind of quietly optimistic and looking forward to seeing what he can do, because obviously he's had the 4 interim spells, but it's kind of been just kind of getting from one permanent manager to another. We've not really seen exactly what his style or management sort of philosophy, if you want to call it that, would be. So interested to see what that'll be, how that'll look. Sort of as we move into the start of the season. But yeah, overall, pretty happy that he's got the job.
Yeah, and in the interview we had, I kind of asked Malky Mackay about the process and how they reached the decision to give it to David Gray. I think a lot of it is, I think you would expect him obviously to know the club inside out. You would expect him to to have having been there through the previous 4 managerial regimes. He's kind of uniquely placed to see exactly what's gone wrong in each one of these. So I mean, it was probably, as encouraging as it must be for Hibs fans, it's probably no surprise to learn that he, as Malky Mackay said, his words were that he nailed the interview to the point that one of the interviewers didn't actually have any questions for him at the end of the 2.5 hours. So I mean, I think, well, what do you as a fan take from that? Does it make it clear that this is, like, as again, as Mackay said, that Gray has this kind of absolute desire to do the job and make it work? And does it lend more weight to the argument that now should be his time and that he is ready for it?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I think, as Mackay sort of said, there were some managers or some candidates who would have quite liked to have got the job and wouldn't mind of managing Hibs, but David Gray was clearly really wanted the job. He knew exactly what it would take. He felt, as obviously he was speaking to the media when he was in interim charge, he felt that he had the qualities to take on the job. So I think it's probably, from a fan's perspective, I obviously don't want to speak for everyone, but I think it's fairly, I mean, obviously Mackay would say this, but it seems fairly refreshing, and at least we know that it wasn't just a formality, that there was actually a process that David Gray had to go through. Obviously Mackay pointed out that he's not really got any previous relationship with him. He's doesn't know David Gray before he came into Hibs. So it was good to hear that it wasn't just David Gray's been here 10 years, let's give him a job, let's see what happens. He had to go through a rigorous process, like a 2.5 hour presentation to get the job. Like, that sounds pretty pretty tough. But obviously, if he impressed as much as Mackay made out that he did, no questions from one of the interviewers, then that can only be a good thing. So yeah, obviously, I think the fact that there was no not many names banded about, other than the usual suspects, Neil Lennon, Derek McInnes, Stephen Robinson, that kind of thing. There wasn't really many names that were leaked besides sort of fan speculation. So from that perspective, you kind of thought, well, maybe it was always going to be David Gray, but by the sounds of it, it wasn't, and he's just proven to be the best candidate for the job. So if that's the case, then all for it.
Yeah, as sort of Mackay said, that he sort of came into it from a sort of cold and calculating position, kind of no sentiment, no previous ties to David Gray. So yeah, I mean, just in terms of the entire interview, we do hope that it kind of shed some light on the process for Hibs fans, and maybe put to, if not completely put to bed, any concerns, because I think with any managerial appointment there is an element of risk, and it's just always the case that the proof is just going to always be in the pudding. So it kind of remains to be seen whether David Gray will be a success in the role. I think what's abundantly clear is that he'll be backed by the supporters as much as, if not more, than anybody else who could have walked into the role. So yeah, the idea was to try and shed some light on the process, maybe allay some of the concerns or questions that were maybe lingering over it, and just basically just show why Hibs thought that David Gray was ready for the job. So if you've not had a chance to do it yet, you can check it out on our website. If you're not a subscriber at the moment, the offer to sign up is on the ticket at the bottom of the screen at the moment. £4 for 4 months, and that'll get you access to that and the second part, which is out tomorrow. And as I said, I'll touch on that before we finish. The other news today was the departure of Brian McDermott from his role at Hibs. McDermott came in May of last year as Director of Football, and as the statement said today, with a particular focus on recruitment. Obviously, over the past couple of months, there's been this football operations review going on in conjunction with the Black Knight Group. Malky Mackay has come in as Sporting Director. So, I mean, it doesn't seem a kind of great surprise. Is it a great surprise to you that Brian McDermott's moved on? It kind of felt sort of that it might be in the offing that his role was not so much no longer required, but the restructuring, it was just maybe a natural consequence of that.
Yeah, I think so. With obviously the restructuring, Mackay coming in as the sporting director, he's got that kind of all-encompassing role that sort of covers many different areas. It was kind of, I think it might have been Patrick actually that sort of suggested when Mackay first came in that McDermott would have sort of moved into a different role. Perhaps I think it was maybe scouting or something that was sort of bandied about.
There was some talk of that, yeah.
Sort of based outside of HTC, but obviously things have moved on since Mackay's come in, and they had that discussion and felt that his role was probably, as you say, perhaps sort of not required anymore or whatever it was. But yeah, I don't really think it was all that much of a surprise, but it just kind of seems like another sort of waste of time. What was it, 13 months or something in the job, and he's out the door. Another sort of dodgy appointment perhaps, but yeah, we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, I think it's possibly looking at the recruitment, which has been very hit and miss over the past for a good while now, really. So it seems as though at least part of this ongoing review is how Hibs can really maximise that. And again, that's something Malky Mackay will touch on in the second part of the interview. So yeah, I mean, Brian McDermott, moving on from his role, he posted on his LinkedIn page earlier today, and I think he almost, if not every member of staff at HTC, it couldn't have been far off. He almost thanked every single one of them by name, as well as the two managers he worked under, Malky Mackay, and obviously the board members such as Ben Kinsella and others. So it seems to be a very much a kind of amicable parting of the ways as part of this restructuring, and obviously it's going to be Malky Mackay that's leading recruitment going forward. And it's fair to say it's probably going to be a busy summer at Hibs. I think it needs to be. The players that have left, the sort of holes in the squads, things are a bit imbalanced in terms of personnel in certain areas, maybe overloaded in certain positions and then very, very short in others. So the transfer window officially opens tomorrow, but as we know, this kind of work at football clubs never really stops. It's just as of tomorrow we can perhaps expect to see things moving officially a bit faster. So I mean, what are you hoping for from this summer transfer? I know that this could be a very, very potentially long answer, considering what went on last season, the disappointment of that, guys who have left. But I mean, obviously the main areas stick out, don't they? Hibs need a new goalkeeper, they need centre backs, they need somebody who's going to replace the goals that Mizian Malida brought. So I mean, you're looking at the squad and thinking, okay, goalkeeper, centre back, and somebody to score goals just for starters.
Yeah, that's it. Pretty much. Not asking too much. Just that kind of sort of spine of the team, as you say. It could be a long answer, so I'll try and keep it fairly short. Obviously, yeah, Marshall's retired, and he's now taken up whatever role it was called, technical performance manager, whatever that actually means. Don't know. But yeah, we'll need obviously new goalkeepers. Jojo Walcott's still here, but after that, I think it's sort of Max Boric, Murray Johnson as well. So we'll need someone else to come and compete. Obviously, Dimitar Mitov, Will Dennis, been sort of names that have been suggested. Will Dennis is back at Bournemouth. Potentially, that could be a wee in for us. Who knows? I think he was having a look earlier. I'm not too much of a big guy on stats, but I saw that Will Dennis was had the highest save percentage in the Premiership last year, 76%. So it's an improvement anyway on what we had. So that could be something to look at. Obviously, centre halves as well. It feels like, I don't know how many windows in a row now we've been saying that we need centre halves. Obviously, Will Fish is back to Man United. Paul Hanlon's away. We've got Rocky, who splits opinion. I personally don't mind him. Obviously, he's error prone, but so is everyone. But yeah, still needs at least one or two sort of centre halves. As you say, obviously losing Mizian as well. Need that goal scorer coming in. Ellie Yuan's looking like he might be away. Martin Boyle's kind of flirting with the idea of going to Australia. So yeah, there's so many areas that we need to sort of strengthen. But then equally, you look at the retained list that was put out a couple of days ago, 25 first team players under contract. We need to kind of just lighten the load, get rid of the deadwoods. Plenty of players in there that will be on, don't know exactly, but I'm guessing on pretty decent wages. So we need to sort of free up some of that money that we can actually bring in quality that we need to kick on next year. So yeah, it's a massive task ahead of David Gray and Malky Mackay, but we'll see if they're up to it, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it's obviously, I think it almost kind of goes without saying that getting the squad back onto this kind of even keel, sort of sorting out this situation where where Hibs have, players that have been signed by a collection of different managers who have all now gone. It's a mishmash of profiles, guys who are looking for different things. It'll probably take a bit of time to kind of, as I said, balance that out. But then you also need to balance that with the immediate need to give David Gray a team that can be competitive on the pitch. So it's a long-term process with some really kind of short-term urgent needs at the heart of it as well. So again, as you say, a difficult one for Malky Mackay and David Gray to balance. I know I keep on going back to this and plugging it, but Malky Mackay does touch on all this in depth in the second part of the interview, which dimension that's coming out tomorrow. I might have alluded to it at some point. I will shut up about it at some point, I promise. But, as you said, really important positions to address. Goalkeeper, you mentioned there, David Marshall retiring, Dimitar Mitov, that's a name that I think is quite popular among Hibs fans. Will Dennis as well had a great season at Kilmarnock, and obviously, you do look at that Bournemouth link. There's a piece on the website as well that we did a wee while ago. Written back. One of our contributors, Matthew Rowley, is just kind of potential options to replace David Marshall, just kind of based on stats. That's still up on our website if you want to give that a wee look as well. But yeah, as you say, it's kind of big task. Goals to replace, Mizian being the main one. But then you kind of look at it, and there is interest in Ellie Yuan from clubs abroad. Martin Boyle away in Australia duty, and he didn't exactly pour any cold water on the idea that he fancies a move to the A-League. He said before the end of his career, which obviously once players get into their 30s, that creeps up ever closer and closer on the horizon. So I mean, what did you make of what Martin Boyle said? It is kind of, I mean, we don't know for sure, but he's not knocking down the idea, is he, that he would like to do that at some point in his career. It's just at the moment we don't really know exactly what he means by that.
Yeah, it was very much just kind of not really saying anything, just kind of like, we'll go back to Hibs and then we'll see. At the minute I'm at Hibs, we'll see if anything changes. So he's not really yeah, he's, as you say, he's not pouring cold water over the idea. He's leaving that kind of suggestion that he could be away. He's not saying that later in his career is going to be however many years time. So yeah, I don't really know. We'll see. Maybe he doesn't want to work with David Gray. Who knows? But yeah, he definitely. Obviously, he said it's a career ambition. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I don't know, to be honest, what to make of it. He didn't really say much.
Yeah, he'd been very, very cryptic, I think is the good tabloid word there. In terms of Boyle in general, I know last season wasn't his best, but I mean, he was coming off the back of that ACL injury. He was playing in a side where very few people were really kind of excelling. He had that, spell on the sidelines where he got the concussion against Rangers at Easter Road. He was also away at the Asian Cup. So I mean, he kind of didn't really have much chance, I felt, to really build any sort of sustained momentum throughout the season. There was always kind of something or another. I felt there was that period where he had to play through the middle as well. He was kind of pulled from pillar to post in kind of various ways. Would you really want to see him stay next season? I mean, especially if the fact that Mizian's away, there's interest in Ellie Yuan as well. Do you think it's vital that Hibs try and hold on to the likes of Martin Boyle?
I was sort of thinking about this. Obviously, with Mizian being away, Ellie Yuan's looking increasingly likely to be away as well. Yeah, you're kind of thinking probably Hibs should be trying to keep a hold of him, so we have someone who is a bit of a goal threat at least. But obviously, as you say, he was kind of a bit stop-start last year with various international breaks. Obviously, the injury coming off the ACL injury, having the concussion as well. I think it was 26 games and 3 goals or something, 3 or 4 goals, a couple of assists. So yeah, when you look at his sort of overall contribution last year, you're kind of thinking he's got a year. I think he's maybe got a year left plus the option for another year. Would Hibs be looking to cash in while they still can? Maybe. Honestly, I don't know. It's a weird one. Because obviously you've got that sort of Martin Boyle being there for so long. He's been so key to Hibs for so long. You're kind of reluctant to say you want to get rid of him, but then also we need to kick on and try and certainly improve on last year. So it's kind of, I can see both ways of thinking about it. It's a tough one.
Aye, certainly is, mate. And as we said, transfer window opening tomorrow. So I think we'll within a few weeks we'll probably this is this time where you're always like before the transfer window, you're just talking about stuff that might happen, that may or may not happen. So obviously once it's open underway, things start to accelerate, and hopefully we'll see more ins at Hibs than outs, at least significant ones this summer as the window gets underway. But we're going to leave it there for today, folks. Thank you very much, as always, for coming on and joining us. Thank you to Callum for joining me as well. Just a final plug for the second part of our Malky Mackay out on the Hibs Observer website tomorrow. Also this weekend, we've got the second of a 2-part interview with Alan Stubbs. First part was out on Monday, Tuesday there, if you want to go back and check that out. Second part reflects on it, the fact that it's almost been 10 years to the day since Alan Stubbs was appointed Hibs manager, which is kind of crazy to think about. So he goes back over all that and just talks a wee bit about what he's up to these days as well. So as I said, thank you as always for joining us, folks. Thanks very much to Callum for joining us as well. We'll be back probably at the start of next week with some more video content. So if you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, you can keep up to date with all of that as well. So have a good weekend, folks. Enjoy the Scotland game tomorrow night. Let's hope we can get a positive result out of that, and we will see you again soon. Thank you.